Hello, everybody. My name is Fernando Gomez, and I experienced a wonderful phenomena within the last 5 years of my life. I started experiencing a thing called privilege. Now, I'm not just talking about affording a daily cup of coffee at Starbucks or not having to shop at Walmart. I'm not even talking about having the ability to choose to eat healthy food, or in my case, choosing to eat tacos instead. But they're so yummy. Now, the privilege that I'm talking about has to do with failure. Now, who here has failed before? Everyone, right? We can clearly establish that no one is perfect. And that includes those who failed to raise their hands, teenagers, and dare I say it, even mother-in-laws. Now, the following phrase is found everywhere, from self-help books to educational reform, and multiple other TED Talks have been dedicated to this. It is okay to fail. You must fail in order to succeed. You must teach your children to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. That's the motto. Now, who here believes in this edict? It's a wonderful idea to believe in, right? It's a wonderful lifestyle to have. Without fear of failure, you can be more creative. You can have more freedom to find your happiness and ultimately be more successful. You can make a difference in the world without fear. I completely agree with that. You won't find me arguing against that. I am actually teaching my own daughter that same lifestyle. It is that important. But now that we established that everyone fails, right? However, being okay with this failure is not just a mindset. It's not even a choice that you can make. It is a gift. It is a privilege that most people unfortunately do not have. Being okay with failure means that you get a second chance. Now, second chances are the equivalent of having second lives. It is falling unconscious, regaining it, and knowing that you traveled back in time. Now, this may seem like an exaggeration, but let's try to remember the second chances that you all have been given. For a small part of the audience here, it might be hard to do, hard to remember these second chances because they have never been in question. You have always had it, and these are truly people who have no fear of failure. There is no shame in this, absolutely no shame in this. I am happy for you. The majority of here can recall an exact moment, though, when a second chance saved or changed their lives, whether it was a second chance at love, a second chance at happiness, a second chance at your career or your passion. You remember exactly how you failed, how you messed up, and how you almost gave up hope. And doesn't a second chance feel like you were drowning in that failure, and yet someone found your outstretched hand and pulled you out at the last possible moment? Now take a moment and imagine where you would be without those second chances. Scary to think about it, right? It will almost unimaginable. Well, a smaller and less fortunate section of you are remembering that they didn't get that second chance. I might have triggered a regret, a what if. This is the part of the audience that sees second chances as a luxury. Not as a given, not as a guarantee, but a luxury. Now, these motivational speakers who push that it's okay to fail mantra assume that second chances are always a given, always a guaranteed. If someone is not successful, it is because you are too afraid to fail. You played it safe. You are the reason you failed. You were not determined enough, and the entire world is out there, they say. The American dream is out there for you to take, so why didn't you? But second chances are not a given. Only a certain type of people get that second chance, and it often depends on the color of your skin, your income, or your gender and sex. Some people have privilege to have that magical combination that gives you the second chances, and some do not. As I indicated at the start, I am just stepping in, dipping my toes into the pool that contains this type of privilege. I was born in El Segundo Barrio, the poorest neighborhood in El Paso, Texas, a son of Mexican immigrants who were illiterate. They had no education at all. They were minimum wage factory workers all their life. So right off the bat, I swung and missed with race and with income. They were tired all the time and fought consistently. They weren't happy. No one really gave them a second chance. And I learned that this household, my childhood was a failure, and it scared the shit out of me. My parents didn't get a second chance to be who they wanted to be. They were too busy surviving. They couldn't go back to school. Come on, they had to take care of us, take care of me. They were working multiple jobs. They couldn't increase their income even if they wanted to. They were stuck, and no one was going to give them a second chance. Their only second chance was to give birth to the next generation. Te sacan de pobre. That was the prayer most heard in the poor neighborhoods. The hope that one of your children, just one, would be the lucky one to take the parents and the family out of poverty. So I'm the youngest of 4. My siblings showed me that my parents' lifestyle was indeed repeatable. They all failed in their own spectacular way. My eldest sister got decent grades, but I ended up getting pregnant. So she had to be a stay-at-home mom. So a swing and a miss. Next, my other sister suffered from seizures. My parents had no insurance, so they weren't able to take her to the doctor. So they did the next best thing. They took her to a curandera. They convinced my parents that my sister was possessed by the devil. They tried to force the devil out of her, and she never really fully recovered from that psychological damage. So another swing and a miss. That's 2. My older brother did horrible things at school and got involved in gangs, and he ended up getting a criminal record. So that was that. So another swing and a miss, and you're out. Since I was born, the fear of repeating my family's economic, social, and educational failures was my main motivation factor in pursuing a failure is not okay motto. I was my family's last chance. And as I grew up, I began learning that these factors, race, gender, and income, are valuable commodities. And if you didn't have them, then you weren't going to get those second chances. I started noticing that I had to not make mistakes to be as close to perfect in order to get out of my current environment. I could not risk failure. Now, Carl Alexander, a Johns Hopkins University sociologist, did a study in Baltimore where he got to track white and black children from a young age to adulthood. And this is what he found. Poor black kids were much more likely than poor white kids to be arrested. And once they were arrested, a criminal record was a much bigger hindrance to the poor black man than it was to the poor white man. White children were getting second chances when confronted with law enforcement. They were given warnings, or if arrested, less harsher sentences. And that wasn't the case with black kids. They didn't get a second chance. Their neighborhood had more crime, and so they were policed more heavily. That meant that even though they didn't commit any more crimes than poor white kids, they were arrested more often. So let me give you an example of how I learned about race preventing second chances. When I was young, my parents taught me to never touch anything, nothing, never touch anything. I would ask, what? Not even the floor? What about the air? I was taught from a young age that I was viewed as a thief, and I cannot give the shop owners or the cops any excuses to detain me. I initially thought my parents were just very cheap, and that it was their way of them not buying me anything. But one day when I was 8 years old, I was allowed to go to the football cart store with a friend. I was trying to show my friend that had the same Troy Aikman rookie card that they had on the display case. Yes, I'm a Cowboy fan. So I brought the card with me, and after looking around a bit and touching items, the owner suddenly rose up from behind the counter and rapidly approached me. He took hold of my wrist that held the Troy Aikman rookie card. As he pulled me up, he said, "You little thief, how did you get this card?" My surprise left me speechless. As he took the card away from me and told us, "You little beaners have 10 seconds to leave or I'm going to call the police." I tried to explain that it was my card. It's my card. I brought it to show my friend. But he started the countdown. 10, 9, 8. So we turned and ran. It wasn't even an expensive rookie card. It was just a 1989 Pro Set Troy Aikman rookie card. I looked it up on eBay before it came up here, and they're going for $3.79. So it wasn't a big deal, right? But I don't touch anything at the stores anymore. So I keep my hands out of my pockets. It's a hard habit to break, especially when my daughter was a toddler and she was touching and grabbing everything on the shelves. I remember telling her when she got older, "Don't bring your toys in the store. They'll think that you stole it." And she would reply, "But I didn't." I told her, "It doesn't matter." But I didn't, she kept saying. And, eventually she ended up taking the stuffed animals, fidget spinners, or whatever trendy thing you kids like now. But I had fear for her. I had fear for me. But you gotta, second chances, right? Second chances. But how many of you have heard of business owners speaking of having failed companies and ultimately they became magically successful? So I heard a crazy story about Finnick founder Vitaly Rizkov. He lost $1.5 million in his first business venture before becoming successful. Yes, you heard me right. $1.5 million. After his failure, undeterred, he began to create a new business. However, he had no income. That sounds familiar, right? We can all relate to that. Well, this is what he did. Quoting, I turned to friends. I took a $300,000 loan from a friend in Moscow, and shortly after, another loan of $300,000 from a friend in Toronto. I borrowed a total of $600,000 from friends. Now, is this realistic? Who can borrow this much from friends and family? If you can, I need your contact information and a great idea to pitch to you. So let me tell you a realistic story about failure, though. I work at a financial aid office at a medical campus, and a student had been accepted into the medical school, but he took a year off, deferment, to work in his growing .com business. His parents weren't healthy. They had poor credit, so the business was his only way of getting income and showing them some support, helping them out. So after a year of putting the effort in it, it did fail. He tried everything to keep it going, taking out additional business loans and even personal loans to infuse money into the business, but nothing worked. So he filed for bankruptcy. However, he had his education to fall back right on. Second chances, right? So I met with them to make sure his financial aid was all in order. So during our meeting, we were telling him, you got a good amount of scholarships, you got some loans there, but you still have a gap. So he ultimately had to take out the Graduate Plus loan to afford his school and his living allowance. However, remember that failed business? Well, those loans that he took out and wasn't able to pay back? Well, the Graduate Plus loan is a credit-based loan, and he was declined. I gave him information about finding a co-signer, but his parents and everyone he knew didn't have good credit. So yes, he was accepted into medical school, but he was unable to attend. Where is the second chances that? This lack of income privilege paralyzes any creativity and entrepreneurship. Who's going to take the leap when there's no one there to catch him? Now, there's other type of privileges that you must have. First, I have this one, but I still say that the gender that has the least margin for error is going to be women. If you recall, I mentioned my parents weren't happy. Well, it was just my mother who wasn't happy. Do you think she had the ability to leave? No, she didn't. The privilege to get a divorce, divorce is a privilege. Those of you who have experienced divorce will agree truly with that it is a privilege. It means that once you exit on the other side, you have the means to live on your own, to raise the family on your own. You have a support group to handle your own mental well-being while going through this process. You have the privilege to choose to be happy without being judged. My mother did not have any of that. She couldn't admit failure. Most women can't. A section of women have to live in abusive situations because they can't afford to move out. So as everyone celebrates failure as a rite of passage, remember this: lifestyle is not possible for everyone. Consider the underprivileged. The motto of it being okay to fail is not a reality to them. It only pushes the blame to them. And not only are they not privileged and cannot control the factors of what race they are, how much wealth they have, or what sex or gender they are. No, now we're blaming them for not being adventurous or successful enough. So how can we be clearer with our words, with our mottos? How can we make people feel less scared to fail and reach that utopia where everyone can honestly say, hey, it's okay to fail? Well, it starts with not only acknowledging it, that these three main privileges matter: race, income, and gender, but that we need to evolve. We need to evolve it. A great example is the College Board that introduced a new adversity rating in the SAT scores this past year. A quick read on the social and economic landscape behind every application. That's what the College Board does now. This is a great first step that allows university admissions offices to not only focus on getting the highest test takers, they can measure resiliency and give a second chance to those students who do not have the parents who help them with their homework, who are working jobs while attending school because their parents do not have enough. This opportunity allows students a second chance in case they do not ace the SAT scores. But how can you help? How can I help? And as I began to gain more privilege myself these last couple of years, my initial impetus for action changed from one of to survive to help people and organizations. I became involved. You might have noticed that the College Board didn't include race in their scores. Why? Because the Supreme Court is currently looking to see if affirmative action is a legal thing. We must all understand that equality is in order to create fairness. We must give other people second chances to make them know that they matter as they are. We cannot lose sight of your own privilege and use it not as a tool to oppress, but we must use it to help others rise. Thank you.